back in the days in 2008, no, 2004, was negotiating with the shipyard about use of silicon coating. My God, the hell they gave me is that because they don't want to apply the silicon coating because it has an environmental effect, what they call fish eye dust, something like that. But silicon as a product, silicon paint, is quite common. So what's the difference about that, number one? Number two, is very sensitive to mechanical contact. So maybe since you are the last speaker, perhaps you could tell us what's so special about this product?
Astute observation, Dr. Watson. Let me get the first one for you, yes. You're right, as far as the application is concerned, yes, they have to have masking tape, and that's why the $110,000 extra. But guess what? There is now called an electrostatic application, which is extremely efficient. And I could run through those numbers, but it's a new technology, which PPG uses, and there are, I believe, 4 facilities in China which can do that, and it's soon going to be in our backyard. So as far as the application and the wastage and the efficiency is concerned, that has been addressed. Your point on, I like to differentiate between innovation and invention. So silicon is not a new invention. As far as PPG is concerned, it's been there for 30 years. In fact, what I just showed you, the product, which is Sigma Glide 2390, is in the 5th generation of fouling release silicon. There's improvements. So this is an innovation. So the invention was 30 years back, and this is an innovation, such as I showed you the ideal properties, 1% speed loss. So in fact, DNV had, and I recognize the widgets they called from the Eco Insight. And it was interesting that in Greece, one of my colleagues made a presentation, and DNV remarked there is something wrong with the data because they'd never seen a speed increase as compared to, obviously, the previous, over the first year at least. Nonetheless, if over a 5-year period, it's just 1% speed loss as compared to 5.3% for a regular anti-fouling. 150 days idle, the vessel sitting. If at all there is any growth, then once the vessel is underway.
Perfect. Any further discussion or any questions on this product? You could speak to Nikeel perhaps after the closure of this session. I would also like to share with you, going back into the DNV Energy Outlook report that was issued end of last year. And over there, we're talking about an investment for the industry to reach its target of the net zero by 2050. And what we're talking about, there is the shipping industry plus the shore infrastructure. So the amount of investment that is needed, depending on which, let's say, technology for the shipping industry that you need to be adopted, etc., it varies from 8 to 28 billion US dollar. That is the amount of investment that needs to be invested in the next few years. And as an infrastructure on the shore side, there is 28 to 90 billion US dollar need to be invested in that in order also for the industry to reach where it is. It is all about collaboration. I believe Jamil touched base on that just before, as a classification society, as a service provider, so working in enabling that as well. So that's where the maritime industry cannot do it alone, and that's why other industries are coming together and really to achieve that. Now, to come to the open question session, I'd just like you to wrap up with an advice to the audience, just within a minute, an advice that you wish to give them going forward based on the previous sessions and our session. Starting with you, Yaqub.
Yeah, sure. I think my advice is don't wait for the solutions to drop from the sky. You have to go out and grab them, and you have to work towards the solutions and contribute towards the development of the solutions.
George?
I think
looking at your order books and all the data that you've shared?
I think shipping is in for a very exciting time, and my advice would be to enjoy the opportunities that are going to be afforded. And if you want to buy ships, I'll be outside waiting to speak to you.
Ali?
Yeah, I think I would say let's win together. Whether you are bankers, financiers, whether you are a private equity, ship owners, glass societies, let's work together and let's win together. We could do it.
I mean, earlier in the morning, I introduced Ahmed Kilani to Captain Ammar. And I said, Captain Ammar, I need you to meet Ahmed Kilani, Gulfnav. Gulfnav, I need to speak to them. How did they make their share price jump from here up to there?
Yeah, we just give the receipt. We just give
So there's a lot of good experience that you have.
Earlier in the slides. So.
Yes, yes.
I think, yeah, it's just about winning together, whether you're small or big or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Shah?
Yeah. Being a finance guy, I can only advise that, of course, we all look for the financing, but at the same time, we have to look for the cash break-even so that we can sustain at a time when there is a bad environment, bad days, especially like COVID 2020, so that you can sustain. So please look into your leverage before going for the financing.
Love is in the air, and sustainability is the new Cupid.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? It's all a perspective, isn't it? So any questions, please?
Yeah, the question is for my friend Jamil. I've seen in your presentation you have a software which is called CCAT, right? And that is mentioned that it's only for new designs, or can you utilize this for the existing ships and then come up with the required changes?
Yes, even for retrofit various different options to compare the effectiveness of each option. It can be used for modeling in that application also.
I have a question for George. You were showing on one of your slides that the 5-year-old asset price is fairly close now to the new building price. Do you see this a continuing factor? I mean, we've had quite a lot of inflation into all inputs into the new building of ships. So do you feel that across all asset classes that the second-hand market is going to hold up in the coming years?
Yes, I think like I touched on in the presentation, I think we'll see the new building prices remain at the levels or the high levels that we're seeing because the new building yards are full and they're not looking for orders. But to answer your question on the second-hand assets, yes, we do. I mean, I think everything we're seeing, even so far this year, we're only 6 weeks into the year. The desire we're seeing from our clients, particularly in Europe, for the modern eco vessels is gaining massive momentum, and that is really bridging the gap on the second-hand pricing compared to the new building. So yes, I would consider that to continue.
So does that lead to a two-tier market with the non-eco vessels older than 10 years?
One would assume it would, yes. I mean, I think you'll look to see them possibly in the short run deployed in different parts of the world, and so yes, you will see that to an extent, I think.
We've got a broad spectrum of expertise on the panel. If you were to make an investment tomorrow in an alternative fuel, what would you go for and why?
I tried to touch on it in my presentation, but what I said was there's no silver bullet. So it would depend on vessel type, availability, trade pattern. You know, we talk about green corridors, so if you're on a liner run, you could easier arrange for the infrastructure either end to refuel, whereas most vessels are on tramping type trade, so that would play a part in the decision making. And then, you know, certain people have certain preferences towards methanol, maybe put off by ammonia because of the potential risks of ammonia, which is understandable. But then, if those risks could be mitigated, why rule out an option that might be a very viable one? You know, that's the way I look at it.
Anybody?
So instead of answering your question, I've made maybe more more question marks, but you know, but I think that's the way it is right now. There's more questions than there are answers. But I hope that was useful.
Ali?
I think we would probably look into the methanol. This is not necessarily because it's the only solution or the best solution, but we will look at the whole business model. So what we do at Gulf Navigation today, we're a chemical-based company. We trade chemicals. We are focused on methanol and carrying methanol. Most of our clients are methanol-based. So we have Methanix, SABIC, and so on and so forth. So we also acquiring, well, in the process to acquire a company which is based in Fujairah, where they have 2 phases of a storage facility that's up and running, and the 3rd phase, which is still virgin. And we're looking at the possibility to develop a methanol bunkering operation in Fujairah. So all these kind of things are connected together. So I think it makes sense to go into the methanol. And the market share for methanol is around 10% currently. So I think it's also building a kind of a business model that we would probably see at low risk if we invest in.
Nikeel, anything?
I fully concur with what you said. I would look at it as a technical and a commercial angle.
Yeah.
Technical being, like Jamil already touched upon, the vessel itself. Yeah, I mean, do you have the space to put in additional tanks if need be? Do you have the, I don't know, is it on it? Okay, the commercial part would be, is it on the trade that there is bunkering facilities? I fully concur with what Jamil said. To answer that question, there are too many questions. So it is, I would answer it with depends.
Okay, thank you. I mean, if I'm the owner of the company, now this is a personal opinion, Ali and Sons, right? Tanker company, right? It's a good one, right?
That's where I bought my car from.
So I would go for methanol. And the reason is, in addition to what's been said, it's the cheapest option, less manipulation with the ship. It's not toxic. I don't have to put an LNG tank, cut the ship side, put it in the cargo tank, or put it in front of the accommodation. Don't have to deal with toxicity, and as well as it's more environmental and easy to handle as far when it comes into occupational health, etc., etc. And it will be the least cost. I would go for that option. We had that very discussion, me and Ian, I think some time ago. And so which one to go for? Ammonia, of course. So anyway, any other question?
Question to George. I know there are no crystal balls, but let's say with your experience, next year at the same time, what do you think the prices will be for a cape size of a 10-year-old? Higher or lower?
Putting me on the spot slightly. I mean, I think you pointed out in your question, it would be lovely to have a crystal ball. I think, what has taught us in the last, say, 3 years, if you look at the amount of disruption there's been politically, globally, with COVID, so much is you cannot predict what has been happening. So I think that is the biggest factor at the moment. I think you've got a very tight fleet supply, and if there is some sort of unforeseen circumstance, you're going to see prices increase. But without the crystal ball, it's very difficult to answer. But like I touched on, I think with the question from Chris, I don't see new building prices falling in that period. So I think those will maintain. It would really depend on where the market is, but I wouldn't really want to have to go on a yes or no, higher or lower. But if you pushed me, I'd say higher.
Can I, to get a slot from the shipyard nowadays for early delivery, you have to sell your soul, so that's out of the way. Now, looking at the plans for the regional and international companies and their ambition and appetite for growth is so big, so there is a demand here for second-hand, i.e. they can't get new building. Second-hand is also, because they want to grow even further, double or triple their size of their fleet, that means they will go for second-hand market. So I think is upward trend. But that's, don't hold me for that if you go and buy or you lose or something.
But Ali, 1 year later, you'll be 50% correct.
50%
Yeah,
right.
look at it this way, yeah.
And
Any other question?
Just to add that the order book of the Capesize is also very low, so there is all shows the sign of going upwards, going forward.
Any other question? Or we wrap up at this stage? I thank you very much for being a fantastic audience, and thank you very much for the speakers.
Thank you.
And we come to a closure of our event, and thank you very much, everyone, Trevor and the team.